Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox, and boy have we got a story here. We all know how Humza Yousaf yesterday reacted, or at least massively overreacted, to the claims made in the front page of the Telegraph. This, of course, came about because of Craig Houston's Freedom of Information request, showing how Humza Yousaf had overridden other MSPs, overridden all the advice given to him to ensure that money for Gaza was not given to where it should have gone, UNICEF, but was instead given to UNRWA, which is more or less exactly the same, perhaps, as giving it to Hamas. Why did he do this? And why did he do it immediately prior to his family being released? And why is there all these rumours of him going to Qatar to meet with Hamas leaders? And why are all these things all linking together to show how closely aligned he is with this organisation? Why is he constantly giving them money? Why is he constantly doing the things he's doing and then denying that he's doing it? Why is he lying about everything? Why is he so shady? Well, I think we all know why. These are very, very pertinent questions and questions he must answer. But then he went out and he overreacted. He said blah, 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 and he did this wrong, and he did a mad Twitter furious breakdown, but never once denied the accusations. He then said it was Islamophobia. Nobody had mentioned Islam. It's apparently the moment you criticise Humza Yousaf, it's not because he's a shady, two-faced chancer. It's because, it must be Islamophobia. But it isn't. So we're going to take a look at this because we're not the only ones saying it. Now, Tory MSP Stephen Kerr is also saying that it was a massive overreaction and it does call into question certain things. And all I'm going to say here is, thank you very much, Craig Houston. You have opened up a can of worms, and with it, a can of whoop-ass. Let's go. So, Humza Yousaf overreacted to Gaza criticism as a row over funding to the terrorist-linked aid agency rolls on. He had the opportunity of giving money to Gaza via UNICEF, who would have used it for humanitarian uses, water and supplies and things. But he said, no, that's not good enough. We can't give it to UNICEF because they're a respected organisation, perhaps. What we're going to do is we're going to give it to UNRWA, who were deeply involved in the attacks on the 7th of October. And that seems a very strange decision in and of itself. However, when you look at the figures and show that look at the facts rather, and see that the decisions were made by overriding the existing funding report that was going to go out of one particular block of money and into UNICEF, it was overridden at his request. There's no indication of where the money's come from. There's no, which of the funds it's come from. And there's no indication as to why he would override what the other MSPs were saying, what his own officials were saying, and what the United Nations actually would have preferred. And it's strange, isn't it? How that money goes through, and the very next day, his family are moved all the way through Gaza to the Rafah checkpoint and out of the country. It's a very strange claim that he's making, that one has got nothing to do with the other. And I think we all know that is very, very unlikely. Scottish Tory MSP Stephen Kerr appeared on BBC Scotland's Sunday show, where he refused to back down over his claims the First Minister could have broken the ministerial code after overruling Scottish Government officials to send money to UNRWA. Now, undoubtedly he's broken the rules, but, on so many different things. He consistently breaks them. He lies. He's shady. And there's no kind of accountability for this. It seems very weird. Humza Yousaf has been accused of Indeed, before we get into this, if he has handed it directly over through weird means, then this is obviously funding an illicit organisation. That in and of itself can carry a life sentence. And it's something that needs to be investigated. Special branch or the security services need to be involved with this, because this is issues of national security. And if he's doing that, then he needs to be arrested, questioned, charged, tried and jailed for putting the lives of people of this country at risk through treating with the enemy, treating with an illicit organisation. It's illegal, and it is dangerously illegal. That's who this man is now, I think, in my opinion, allegedly. Humza Yousaf has been accused of overreacting to criticism of his decision to hand funding to a terrorist-linked aid agency instead of UNICEF. The First Minister reacted furiously to allegations that he breached ministerial code by overruling Scottish Government officials to give money to UNRWA. A day after he publicly announced that $250,000 would go to the organisation, his wife, Nadia El Nakla's parents, were allowed to escape from Gaza after being trapped there while visiting their family when the October the 7th attack happened at the hands of UNRWA. Mr. Yousaf claimed that his detractors were pushing Islamophobia and it was a smear. No, calling out the truth is not Islamophobia. The very fact you happen to be Islamic is your business. It could have been any other First Minister who did it, would still have been attacked. So cut using the race card, you arsehole. It isn't Islamophobia to criticise you when you are the ones breaking the rules, overriding the officials, changing your mind, and writing it down in emails so that we can see it, you idiot. Scottish Tory MSP Stephen Kerr was quoted in the piece as he indicated that the First Minister has urgent questions to answer over whether he breached the ministerial code due to making the decision to give funding to UNRWA when he had close family links to the war in Israel. He said the First Minister has some serious explaining to do, starting with why he override officials to take money away from the vital UNICEF water programme and assign it to UNRWA. It looks as though the money was not budgeted and that the First Minister was prepared to bend and break the rules and not follow procedure. And indeed, he said in the email that he would face the consequences of breaking. He actually said it in his own words that he'd face the consequences of this later. Well, let's move to later. Now is later. Face the consequences. You broke the rules. You broke the ministerial code. You lied. You are fraudulently taking money from the people of Scotland and giving it to a prescribed organisation. And if you don't go to jail for this, then we might as well just give up and call Scotland a lawless state. Anyway, he said Humza Yousaf clearly has a conflict of interest in awarding of aid to Gaza. Clearly the fact that so many members of his family are either living in Gaza or are involved with the Palestinian organisations raises significant questions about what his motivation is for using taxpayers' money in the area. Ask the people of Scotland if they want this money to be going there, and they will resoundingly say no. Humza Yousaf needs to sell his house and repay that money. All of it, the £750,000 of taxpayers' money that he's dishing out because it's other people's money and not his. Well, let's make it his. Make him sell everything he's got to repay that money. And then throw his arse in jail for treason. On BBC Scotland's Sunday show, Mr Kerr was asked if he regretted these comments considering the reaction of the First Minister and various nationalist politicians to the story, but he doubled down on his criticism by insisting that the SNP leader had overreacted in his response. He said there are questions about how it came about that £200,000 that had been allocated to UNICEF for water projects was overnight on one single email pivoted and redirected. It is not unreasonable to ask exactly what happened and why was that decision made, and that's all we're asking. He said it is the ability of a Member of Parliament, whether at Westminster, Holyrood or anywhere, to scrutinise the operation of government and to hold the government to account. There is nothing unusual about asking questions about how decisions are made and why they were made. And the reaction, he says, of the First Minister, I felt, was an overreaction. He said, now I happen to agree with him on some of the things he said about the nature of politics and the identity politics and all of that stuff in his social media points. But that's not the point. That is not the point I'm trying to make here about his motivation. We have a ministerial code that protects ministers on issues of conflict of interest. And he undoubtedly broke them. Funding to UNRWA has been paused by a number of major countries due to the number of staff members being alleged members of Hamas who perpetrated the October the 7th attacks, which killed 1,500 people. The Scottish Government has handed £750,000 to them, funding enemies of this country. He is now, in my view, and it's only my view, so I'm allowed to say it, I've got to cover myself, it is my opinion that that man is so linked to fundamental Islamic terrorism in the form of Hamas, and he's supporting an organisation that is calling for the genocide of the Jewish people, that that man is not fit, not only to not be the First Minister, but not fit to be walking free in the streets of this country. He needs to be arrested, locked up and jailed for the rest of his natural life for treason. And that is what he's committing. And he's getting the people of Scotland, the taxpayers of Scotland, to fund that treason, in my opinion. I'm stopping, I'm coming up. In those tweets, he ranted, he ranted, he ranted, but he did not deny. He claimed it's Islamophobia, but all we did was throw his words back at him. It was his emails. It was his decision. No one else. His. It is not Islamophobia. It is not people making false or smearing him. We are using his words, his decisions, his instructions. He doesn't like the fact that he's been caught out, and so he's reaching for the only thing he's got. He's playing the card. He's playing every card he's got. It's racism. It's Islamophobia. It's a smear campaign. It's people who are my political enemies. No, it's people who've seen through you. People who see deep into what is inside you, and people who don't like it. Because you are not anyone that should be in power. You are quite literally an enemy of the state. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I will speak to you later. Bye.